uh, hop right in. All right. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for September 20th, 2019. SPY is going to be down almost 0.5%, was down more with news that there was some cancellation of trade talks there, and the market didn't like that. So, did kind of accelerate the selling from the morning. Q's kind of got right to our line in the sand there and stopped. So that's going to put the Qs still in bullish territory, especially long term. Really long terms, we're not going to come into play quite yet. But watching the daily here, we are seeing some signs of weakening, especially in the SPY. So Qs back into support. Still going to be bullish on the Qs going into Monday, but the SPY starting to show more signs of wanting to roll over, breaking underneath that bottoming tail. Okay, so bullish to neutral going into Monday here on the Qs and SPY. Okay, so Qs, once we break under here, we will have to shift to a completely neutral bias. We'll no longer be bearish on the short term. Weekly and monthly, like I said, will remain bullish, but the smaller time frames are starting to give us some indication that the recent rally is running out of steam a little bit. Okay, and then we'll be back into this very choppy area that we were in previously. Okay, so I think today's low for the Qs and the SPY going into Monday will be pretty significant. Okay, and then underneath there, we'll expect really this to kind of sell off some more until it finds support, see how it reacts at support. If it's not able to show strength at support, then we'll have to start looking for bearish opportunities in the Qs and SPY. Okay, so we are seeing some of the bullishness start to weaken a little bit. We've been bullish on it since it broke out of this range. We're now starting to see that maybe that the move has been made. That it did, the SPY was able to make a new high after breaking out. The Q is not able to do so, but did show some strength here over the last couple of weeks, especially in the face of yesterday's FOMC sell-off. So, I think starting to paint a little bit more of an unclear picture here on the Qs and SPY. So going into Monday, neutral to bullish. Okay. What I wanted to do today is kind of just look at the plays from the week. There were no calls from me today. There was the play of the day was Sammy had a call on the Roku short, but since that was his call, I'll let him kind of share that with you guys. It was called as a short right at the open, and that one was really kind of unbeatable by anything else that we saw today as far as profitable plays go. So what I want to do is just take a look at the plays from this week because I do think they really provide good examples of patterns that are pretty standard for what we play, long and short. So that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to do them necessarily in order of when they occurred, but just kind of in the order that we want to kind of identify them in. So, something like the PBF here. Okay, let's go to the 5-minute here. PBF was a pro gap down. All right, professional gap down here, gapping underneath some support, going against the short-term trend. That's going to be a professional gap. Was into some more support, but it was showing a lot of relative weakness here, and this was right on Monday. And so we got this nice bit of basing here right at the lows, okay? And so this was our entry here as it broke the bottom of the base, okay? So showing lots of weakness, okay? Consolidation, moving out sideways, 20 MA, curling over price, and then we played this breakdown, okay? Now let's move on to the IOTS, which I think was the very next day. IOTS basing at the lows, playing the breakdown as it sells off. Again, we have another pro gap down, gapping against the short-term trend as well as the long-term trend there, professional gap. I did see a question. Someone was wondering on YouTube. I'm still not sure the difference between a professional and a novice gap. Professional gap is going against the trend. Novice gap is going in the direction of the trend, something that's looking extended. Okay, most gaps will be professional. Okay, so usually if you run into something you're not sure, it's usually going to be professional. Okay, so on both of these, the IOTS, the PBF, we're playing in the direction of the trend. So, when it comes to patterns, right, and again here, 20 MA curling over, we played it as it broke underneath that bottoming tail there, lower, and, when it comes to these entry patterns, hopefully you can kind of see just how similar they are, not only in that they're the same strategy, but the entries, right, and the way that they set up, right, are easily identifiable. And that's really important because we need to be able to see it, identify it in real time when it's happening so that we can know, right, when to get in, when to play it, and know that, it's a worthwhile play. Now, this, right, breakdowns means it was moving sideways. Now, they did break the lows, but for us, it's not just any break of a high or a low on a intraday chart. It is required that we have, a series of equal highs or equal lows, or in other words, consolidation sideways in order to be played lower. Let's take a look at a couple breakouts. So these would be breakdowns. And the first one, breakout I'd like to show you is this one, which did not work. So you can see this was the base here that I was looking at. We got consolidation, and then on the BIOS we actually had a gap up, so professional gap up. I'm playing in the direction of the trend. Okay, it's not extended away, it's not multiple green bars up, wide range green bars on the daily, so it's not going to be a novice gap. Okay, it's going to be a professional gap. Most gaps, like I said, are going to be professional unless they're really, really extended, really, really up there. And so here we had this kind of consolidation that lasted for about almost an hour, and then we got triggered in right here, and then it came right back in. Hard reversal on this BIOS, so I said let's go ahead and kill it under here. Only saved a few cents off the stop on something that was, I think, a 10-cent stop, so didn't save much. Ended up failing there on the BIOS, right? Was looking for this to break out and make new highs. That was the only one of my calls this week that did not give us a nice target there. All right, but let's look at another breakout here. On the EROS, we had a 2-minute breakout. All right, on the EROS yesterday. Okay, we had already shown a bit of a run up, and we were showing a lot of bullishness here, and then we got this consolidation right in here. Not the cleanest, right, but again, we had a nice move up on this. This was also a gap. Here's the consolidation there, and then right off the 2-minute there, right, and much, much better follow through. So, is it worth it to play long on some of these breakouts, right? Even if it turns out on a week like this week, maybe it is 50%. This is a very small sample, but the winners are going to work and more than make up for every loser, right? Then of course it's worth it to play, right? And so here we had the gap up on the EROS, right? And again, not coming from wide range green bars, right? Maybe if these green bars had been even bigger and then it gapped up from these bars here, and this maybe was a solid green bar, then I would say, okay, we'd be looking at a novice gap, big gap up. But, this, as far as kind of these kind of consolidation bars, even a red bar with a topping tail, it's still going to be a professional gap. Okay, so there on the 2-minute was the little bit of a breakout there that we played it on. Okay, so that was running up, gave us a pullback, and then base out sideways, and then we got in it as it broke over that base, right? Would have been nice if we held it all the way up to 92, but we actually got out in this run up here. Okay, that was where we got out the final piece. And then the last play here, which is going to be somewhat similar, but actually to the short side, is going to be this BE that we played. Okay, so the BE, so you can see that this got sold right away, okay? And then after it actually got sold, this was a little bit earlier in the week. I think this was play number 2. Yeah, so after it got sold, right, it kind of came back up, put in this base, and then we played it underneath this little bit of a base right here, okay? And then again, right, as far as what gives me permission to play this lower, to look for this short, and this one on the 2-minute, let's take a look at the 2-minute, because like I said, this one is similar to the to the BIOS 2-minute here, curling over, setting up this base breakdown after it's already kind of made a move, but gave us a nice retracement to kind of reset for the next one. Okay, base, and then follow through lower. Again, what gives me permission to play this? Just it's a professional gap. It is coming from a couple red bars, but again, not extended away, right? Not like if we were gapping maybe from these bars here, we'd be starting to look a little bit more novice. These aren't wide range bars. They aren't excessively big, and then a gap down. Those are more likely to kind of get bought, or at least we can more predictably play them as a long. For this, still going to be a professional gap, just doesn't have maybe as much shock value as I would have liked. I don't know that there are that many longs trapped in this as maybe if it had gap down from here. Like if it gap down from this green bar, then I would think more longs would be trapped. This less sure, but still doing a good amount of damage to this chart and gapping to all-time lows. So that gave me the kind of strategy there to start off right from the open, look for a way to short this, and then eventually we got the nice sell setup, and then the base here, and then the breakdown. Okay, so that's the process. The starting with, should I be looking at this long or short, right? And then when do I get an entry? When does it tell me now is the time? Where should my stop go? Where should my entry be, right? That's the benefit of the pattern here. So you can see we had 5 plays, just the BIOS, which did trigger us in on that breakout and didn't want to follow through, but we essentially played the same thing on the IOTS, and that more many times over what it made up for this BIOS. And even that even if we had taken a full stop on this BIOS, I don't really think this trail was really all that imperative. I'm fine with taking a stop on a play that doesn't work. But this tells me that what we're looking at, what we're focusing on, what we're trying to catch as far as looking for the big moves that set up. This was more than a positive expectancy, right? So I just wanted to kind of recap this week's plays. There was nothing from me today as far as official calls. I think if you were in the room, you probably played the Roku with Sammy right at the open, and really that's all you needed, right? So hopefully you did well this week. Going into next week, like I said, the market, we had FOMC this week. We also had this event today where the kind of resolution between U.S. and China over trade negotiations is not as clear, and maybe even looking a little bit less likely than it was earlier in the week. So, that has really taken an effect on the picture here of the market, right? So we'll see if next week we actually want to come back into this range, and then we can start talking about looking for short setups on this. We're not there yet, but we are starting to notice the bullishness start to kind of weaken here. Okay. All right. So that's going to do it for today's market wrap and do it for the week. Hope you did well this week. We'll be back at it on Monday, and I'll talk to you then. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone.